It's 3 o'clock on the button. Hello, very good Sunday afternoon to you. Coming up next, I shall be talking to Paul Newlove. His autobiography is now available. It's called At the Centre of Rugby League. Paul's here with the author Andrew Quirke, which will talk all about his life and times in the game. We'll also get you up to date with the Leeds Tigers, who, not surprisingly, having taken a 121-point lead into the second leg of their European Shield match, have already gone through today. We'll hear from Phil Davies. We shall also be taking a look at the Castleford Tigers, who will start life in National 1, of course, next season. And also at the Wakefield Trinity Wildcats, who had their best ever finish in Super League. And we shall be also catching up on kickboxing, because Leeds, whether you know or not, is a very active centre for the sport. We're going to start off today with a little bit of music. 1 minute past 3 is the time. BBC Radio Leeds is the place, and the music is All Right Now, and it's from Free. Radio Leeds, it is 5 minutes past 3. A very good afternoon to you. Don't forget, coming up a little bit later, we'll be reviewing the contrasting fortunes of the Castleford Tigers and the Wakefield Trinity Wildcats as we look back at their season. We'll be taking a look at kickboxing, and we'll hear from Phil Davies. The Tykes, incidentally, have gone through today. 53-11 they won today. 174-11 over the Spanish outfit Valladolid, and of course that means they're into round 2 of the European Shield. Well, right now it's time to meet our star guest of the day, Paul Newlove, a former rugby league player and indeed Great Britain international, and the author Andrew Quirke, who's helped Paul put together his autobiography. It's called Newlove, At the Centre of Rugby League. Hello to you too, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good to have you both on board. I was just saying, Paul, before we actually began, that it's almost incredible, really, because I've been around, as you can see from the old boat race, I've been around a long time, and our paths have never crossed in rugby league before.
Yeah, that's right. I don't usually give many interviews, though, John.
No, you're the quiet man, aren't you?
I am a quiet man. I'm a bit nervous today as well.
Yeah. But you see, the interesting thing as well is that during my lifetime following the game, or just about almost all of it, there's been a Newlove playing rugby league.
Yeah, that's it. It's a rugby family. You know, I've got 2 brothers, and my dad played, and my uncle as well. So, yes, and then my little lad, I hope he's starting playing as well.
Yeah, does he look as though he's going to do?
He's got the ability. He's quick, he's nippy, but he's just not that old enough yet. He's only 7 today, actually.
Oh, well, happy birthday. What's his name?
Joe.
Happy birthday to Joe. Andrew Quirke, because Paul is a quiet man and known as being one too, how did you manage to get him to tell you enough to put a book together?
Well, basically, I was living in Australia at the time, and this time last year, the Doug Lawton book had come out, which had wrote, which was successful, and I was looking for a follow-up. Paul was obviously one of my favourite players at Saints, being a Saints fan, and I thought with him being quiet that there's a real story there that perhaps people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And
is there?
Well, definitely. You know, I got in touch with Paul, and once he checked out that I was for real and it wasn't a wind-up from one of the other Saints players, we got talking. And then the thing is about Paul, I don't think he gives himself enough credit at times, because, you know, he's drier than, white wine. He's got a really good sense of humour, and he can tell a tale, as I think, you know, people who've read the book have said to Paul. They've given feedback saying that there's quite a few stories in there.
That's one of the great things about rugby league, Paul. You meet so many characters. You play against them, you play with them, and it's typical that having got the phone call from Andrew, you might have thought to yourself, this will be one of the Saints players winding me up.
I did. I thought it was Barry Ward, one of the Aussie players, sending me a phony letter and me to reply to it, and I did an investigation on the internet first, and it was genuine. So we got in touch, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we had a good time doing it.
Are you the first rugby league Newlove to put your story on paper? I can't remember your dad doing an autobiography.
Yes, I believe I am. My dad's never done a book, so I'm the first one. I'm pleased with it as well.
Tell us what it was like growing up around Fev as a kid, because I followed their fortunes a number of years. I was lucky enough to be with them in '83 when they beat Hull at Wembley in that absolute classic final. It was just such a wonderful day, if you didn't happen to be a black and white fan, that is. What was it like growing up around Fev? I mean, you've got to be expected to play the game, especially with your dad being a pro as well, and your uncle.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm from Pontefract, really. People think I'm from Featherstone, but, with the family ties at Featherstone, people say I'm a Fev lad, but I'm really from Pontefract.
You're near enough.
Yeah, it's only a couple
especially
of miles.
with that flat cap on you've got today.
But, it's just like growing up elsewhere, but I think more so with your dad being a professional, they expect you to play the game. And I just fell into it, really. I mean, I wasn't the one for going watching rugby. Like I say, it was always a winter sport, and it's cold watching, and you know, that's right, and that's where I like to be at my grandma's, and they left me there on a Sunday afternoon, my mum and dad, and well, my dad played, so I didn't really see much of my dad playing.
No, it's interesting that, isn't it? Because, you know, if I said to you then, who was your hero, you couldn't really say your dad, even if he was, because you'd not seen enough of him.
No, that's right. I have got some now old videos, 1971, I believe it is.
Black and white?
No, it's in colour. You know, when they played Bradford Northern in Challenge Cup final, and to watch it, it's really interesting and really good to see how it's changed through the years.
Yeah. What have you noticed most about the changes? I have a particular reason for asking you, because having looked at the '83 final recently, I noticed something immediately about it. What did you notice?
Well, I mean, it's much quicker, isn't it, straight away, and I think it's a bit more organised as well. The skill level as well, I think, improved. It's just 100% all round, dare I say, a bit better.
Well, one of the things that I think's changed, and maybe Andrew will come in on this one, is the shape of the players. The shape's changed completely. Yes. At one time, when the players ran out, you could pick the front row, you could pick the back row, you could pick the backs and the half-backs and the full-back, and everybody sort of had not a uniform size, Andrew, but they all looked as if they were going to play a particular position.
Oh, definitely. You could always identify who the prop forwards were, and, you know, they were probably, you know, propping up the back later on, and that's how they got the physique. But obviously with the advent of full-time professionalism and training and dietitians, you know, players do look sort of, they've got like a similar build now. It's like a prototype of the modern rugby league athlete.
Yeah, who is a very fit man.
Oh, very much so. You know, I think it's the toughest team sport in the world, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I heard somebody talking the other day. I'm not saying the lads don't still like a drink. I'm sure that they do. But this guy was under the impression that's what it was. You know, it was just about boozing and playing. And I didn't actually say anything to him, but I thought, you've got a little bit to learn, son, you know, if that's what you think.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like you said, I mean, after a game, I'm sure the guys do go out for a beer to celebrate, but Monday morning, even Sunday, you know, if they're playing a Saturday, they're back in training and they're 100%. I mean, they might train hard, but they play hard as well.
You played with 3 smashing clubs, didn't you? I mean, 4 if we include Castleford towards the back end of your career. Where did you enjoy it most?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed my time at Featherstone. That's where, you know, I first played, you know, first time pro, and the guys there, we had a good 5 years there when I was there, and then I had to move on. But my main team was St. Helens. I had most of my success at Saints, and that's what I left Bradford for, to go to, you know, find medals and get the rewards of rugby league, and I've done that. Yeah,
indeed. It's interesting though that, you know, you wouldn't have had to make that move nowadays unless you'd really wanted to, because the Bulls themselves are right up there.
That's right, they are. But it's strange though. All my Wembley finals and Super League winners, it's all against Bradford Northern. Bradford Bulls, sorry, not the Northern.
Yeah.
So it's a good job I would have St. Helens.
Who was around the Featherstone team when you came into it? I love to know who maybe had an influence on you, who gave you a few wise words, and who didn't give you any at all, and would he just easily give you a clip around the lug?
Well, Peter Fox, he was, you know, the coach. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with Peter over the years.
He knows a lot about the game, doesn't he?
Yes, and I took to Peter. Not a lot of people do, because Peter likes to tell you it straight, and some people don't like that. But I mean, he told me straight enough. But you know, I accepted it, and he was right what he was saying.
Did your game come on quickly under him, do you think?
Yeah, at the time, and sometimes I just did my own thing as well, and Peter just let me do my own thing, and I think he could see, you know, I've got the ability, but he just needed challenging, you know, into the right place. And there's Derek Fox as well. He was the captain and a tremendous player, and ended up playing Great Britain with Derek. Went on tour with Derek, and
good little tactician.
Yeah, he's a great guy. You know, 100% professional as well.
Was it harder for you coming into the Fed side, where your dad had played with great distinction, being his son, even though you hadn't seen a lot of him? Those who put the money down at the turnstile had, and they always offer a comparison, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think they were expecting big things when I joined, you know, the club. I came from, you know, being a junior as well, with big accolades on my shoulders as well. And and they did expect a lot from me. And like I said, I just got on with my own game, and it took off.
Yeah. Now, being a Saints fan, Andrew, you, of course, would have taken great joy about writing about Paul's success whilst at Knowsley Road. But what about the early days? I mean, was there something you just put your finger on and thought, right, that was a seminal moment. That was a turning point.
I think the moment was really the signing of Paul. It was the last place in the jigsaw, really. We'd started to, sign players. We'd signed Scott Gibbs, Bobby Goulding. The side was starting to develop. We became a full-time professional side. Wigan had obviously had that advantage for years before. Other teams started to catch up. And Paul really was like the catalyst. It increased the crowds. The club became more professional, and that first season in '96 where we did the double, well, I mean, Saints are still successful now, and I think it goes back to the signing of Paul, because it was the first big name player that Wigan hadn't managed to sign, and Saints had finally got one over on their old rivals, really, and had the money to do it.
Very important, that, isn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah. I'm always interested when I look at autobiographies in the chapter titles, and the first chapter, Early Doors, fair enough, okay, that's where it all began, but the second chapter says Porter Paul at Featherstone. Where does the Porter bit fit in?
Well, I had a couple of years at being a porter at Pontefract Hospital.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it comes from that.
And no doubt the lads picked up on that. I mean, it's not something they're going to miss out on, is it?
No, it isn't. And, like I said, I had a good few years there, and he did a good job, and but I went full-time after that.
Did you come in as a centre, or did they break you in on the wing initially?
Yeah, I started on the wing, and Peter moved me into centre, after a few games on the wing, and I've stopped in the centre ever since.
Yeah. Who was playing in the team at the time?
Chris Bibb, like I said, Derek Fox, Chris Burton. Who else?
Now, you'd be all right with Chris Burton, because if it looked like there was going to be a bit of bother, Chris would sort that out for you, wouldn't he?
That's right. We used to call him Bus Stop. He just used to stick his arm out and,
If you're listening, Chris, well, I think that's unfair. If you're not listening, it's absolutely accurate, isn't it? Yeah, he was a tough kid, wasn't he?
Oh, he's a great fella. I still meet up with him now and then. Have a big beer with him in Leeds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know, there's one thing, Paul, and I can see the smile on your face when you talk about your former colleagues. The one thing you'll never replace in your life at any time is being a member of a team like that.
Yeah, like I said, the first 5 years at Featherstone were brilliant. It were an hobby, really, and I were getting paid for it as well.
Yeah.
That's how great it was. And people like Chris and another guy called Gary Rhodes, he's a really joker. And like I say, it's good to be around them.
Were you happiest playing up or down the hill at Featherstone?
I never really noticed while we were there.
Let's call it a slope, so I don't get a load of phone calls.
But I don't, either way, it was nice to play at home, because whoever we had at home, they knew they had to win for an hard game.
Yeah.
And at Post Office Road, when you had like 5,000, spectators in there, it was a really good atmosphere, really good crowd.
Interestingly enough, I've just read another rugby league book about the life and times of the late Mick Shoebottom. And Featherstone is listed as one of the toughest places to play if you're a visitor. Yeah,
I can believe that as well, because, like I say, when Wigan and Saints came down, they knew that to beat Featherstone at the home patch, they had to be playing really well.
I know things have to move on, Andrew. And by the way, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Paul Newlove, whose autobiography is out. We're also talking to the author Andrew Quirke. I know things have to move on. But there were some great days for the village team, and the village team was Featherstone, and there were some great days for them when they competed on a fairly level playing field, except at Post Office Road, on a fairly level playing field with the big boys.
Definitely, and I think, that's what's great about rugby league, that, the small team always had a chance against the big team, and you used to get some great Challenge Cup upsets, and that's what the romance of sport is all about. I think the only sad thing is, and obviously I think Super League's been a good thing, and the crowds have increased and the entertainment's been good, but the smaller sides who weren't included in the Super League party, as it were, they're going to find it really hard to close that gap. If you haven't got the resources now, and you haven't got the funding, it's like Paul said in the book, if you're a local Yorkshire lad, where are you going to go? Are you going to try and make your name at Featherstone, or are you going to go straight to Leeds because they're the big club with all the money? And unfortunately, all the good juniors are going to go to the big clubs, and that's the way the game's going.
Yeah. Okay, well, as long as the good juniors get a chance to play first-team football, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Definitely, and I think we all saw the Tri-Nations final, and I think the more juniors we get coming through, and perhaps I mean, it's great to see the Aussie and Kiwi stars come over, if the stars, you know, and some of the ones who are coming over, you know, maybe coming over for a holiday, and if they're keeping the juniors out, that's the future of our game, and we're never going to close the gap on Australia unless we start, backing up on our promises that we do believe in our academy products.
What about when it came time to leave Post Office Road, the Lion Hat as we know it now? Was it a wrench?
It was, because, like I said, I enjoyed it, but I know I had to go. And I can remember my dad saying as well, if I haven't made it by I'm 21, I'm not going to make it at all. And I was 21 and I left, and I moved on.
Yeah. Did you have a choice about where you went? Because sometimes it's signed and sealed, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I did have a choice. I could have gone to any team, really, John.
Tell us who was in for you at the time. I'd be interested to know that.
Well, there were Wigan, St. Helens, Bradford, Halifax, Leeds. You know, every. You know, I'm not being big-headed.
No, they were queuing up.
But yes, they were. I could have gone. I could have picked my own, whichever. But I ended up going with Peter Fox.
But when it came time to make the choice, who helped you make that choice as to where you would actually play?
Who helped me?
Did you consult your dad?
No, my dad, he's always been in the background. He's never pushed me to whatever. You know, he's never taught me anything. He's, you know, as a youngster, all right, we used to pass the ball about in the park and in the garden, but he's never coached me. He's just let me get on with it and let the coach at the team who's coaching me, and I think that's been a good thing as well. But as for signing which club, it was my own choice as well.
How much did it influence you, the fact that you were going to be rejoining Peter Fox? Because he's very persuasive, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it was signed, sealed and done for me. You know, Peter came in, because I was going to go to St. Helens.
Right.
But
you must have always had a fancy for him, did you?
Well, I did, yes. But it fell through, the deal fell through. And then Peter came in, and I went straight to Bradford.
Yeah. We should tell everybody at this stage, by the way, that we've got a copy of the book here, which Paul will sign. And we will offer you, it's in the next half hour or so. It's called Newlove, at the centre of Rugby League. And we'll give you that book, but you're going to have to answer a question, so I want you to listen very carefully to what's coming up, because we're actually going to give you the answer. So all you really need to do is to remember the answer and then give us a bell. Let me remind you of the number. It's 0845 303 3333. So there you are. You've landed at Odsal. As far as you're concerned, and I don't really know how players' minds work, because I've never been one at that level. Is that your final move? Are you thinking, right, I'm in here, this is where I'm staying? Is that what you think initially?
Yeah, you do. I mean, I never dreamt of, playing for 4 clubs. I know some players do, they play for more. Yeah. But I was at Odsal, and I thought, right, Peter's here, and he's getting a team together, and I'll stop here. And I would have done, but things happen, and then you're on your way again.
Oddly enough, though, it was an interesting time for Rugby League, wasn't it, Paul? Because things were about to change in the style of the game and the way it was played, the way the players were prepared, and it was almost a revolution, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I had 2 years at Bradford, and then, like you said, things were changing. They were coming more full-time, and then the Bradford Bulls appeared, and then Peter were on his way as well, and I were on my way. Brian Smith took over at Bradford, and then that's when I left.
Did Brian say that he didn't want you to stay, or because the one thing that had been constant throughout the early years of your career, and indeed remains so throughout the whole of your career, was your ability to score tries?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a brilliant record at Bradford. I can't, off the top of my head, remember what it is, but, the 2 seasons I were there, the scoring tries, it would just came, quite easy. I mean, like I said, we had a good side as well. I mean, we finished joint top with Wigan that year, and we lost on points difference, so we were getting there.
Can't have been that bad, can you?
No, that's right, so we're getting there.
Yeah, who was around you in that Bradford team at the time?
Dave Watson, and like I said, Derek Fox were there as well, Carl Fairbank, and I've played with Keith Mumby as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wasn't everybody?
Yeah, Mumby was still playing as well, so...
Sound lad, wasn't he, Keith?
He was, yeah.
His brother was a pro footballer, of course, when he started at Leeds, moved on to Burnley.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his brother was a pro footballer. football. Do you excel at any other sports?
Well, I had a couple of trials at football. I had a trial at York City a long time ago, and I thought I'd make it as a football player, but obviously I didn't, and I decided to pick the ball up and run with it. So
Right. So, was there a difference of opinion between yourself and Brian Smith, or was that decision perhaps made in the boardroom? How did it work out?
Well, Brian was still in Australia, and he sent his assistant, Matthew Elliott, over.
Indeed.
And I was working well with Matthew, but I was too far down the line to come back, if you know what I mean. I think the deal had been done with St. Helens, and I couldn't give Brian the time I should, really. And when he came over, I played a couple of games under Brian, and then I left, you know, so I didn't get to know Brian as well as I should have done.
Nonetheless, you were already a Great Britain player.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, making your debut at a tender age. I mean, how old were you?
I was 18 and 72 days, so, you know, I'm quite proud of that as well, and I think that'll stand for a long time.
Yeah, I think when you pull your national jersey on for the first time, that must make the old chest stick out a bit.
Yeah, it does. I can remember, you know, I can remember it now. I was sat on the bench, you know, there were 3 or 4 minutes left to play, and Malcolm really told me to warm up, and then 3 or 4 minutes have earned me, you know, a few quid and a couple of records as well.
Yeah, yeah. Who was it against?
New Zealand.
Right, where at?
At Old Trafford.
Yeah, so, you know, you're bound to remember. Full house, everything happening around you.
That's right. I mean, funny enough as well, I nearly scored. Somebody put a kick down and I chased it.
Yeah.
And I think it was Tony Kemp who was playing full-back that day. And he just got himself over and shielded the ball, and I was just yards off it. So it would have been a dream come true if I scored that.
And I bet you'd have thought, oh, this international game's here.
Yes.
You only have to play for 4 minutes, score a try, and it's done.
That's right.
And off you go. Can you remember the final result?
I can't, no. But I think we lost that first test.
Yeah.
And then the second test came round. I think it's Wigan at Central Park, and I was starting. And Mr. Reilly started me. You know, from the kick-off.
Do you write, when you're writing a book, I'm always interested in how authors go about things, Andrew Quirke. Do you write from the heart, or are you a man who always has a pile of stats books at the side of him?
Oh, I'm definitely not a statistician. It's all from the heart, and it's all about the story. And, you know, try and keep it humorous. When I spoke to Paul about first doing it, you know, Paul, one of the first things he said was, well, I don't want it to be boring, I want people to have a good laugh when they read it. I think that's what books should be. But, yeah, definitely write from the heart. It's passion. I love rugby league, and I've always enjoyed writing, so that's where it comes from.
Nevertheless, you were very much aware that Paul had set that record of being 18 years and 72 days on his Great Britain debut.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I studied all Paul's achievements, you know, to do my research before I spoke to him, and I think people are not really aware of how many records Paul holds in the games, you know, not just the appearance one, but his
Run a few past us.
Well, the try scoring at Bradford, it was something like 65 tries in 64 games, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, no one's got a strike rate like that in the game. Also, the first season of Super League, Paul got 28 tries in 22 games, which stood until Danny Maguire obviously brought that earlier this year. You know, the list goes on, and a World Club champion, Super League champion many times over, Challenge Cup winner 3 times. You know, he's someone who's literally done it all in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you feel in some ways, although you had that spectacular try-scoring record with the Northern and the Bulls as they became, do you feel in some ways your time was unfulfilled there to a degree?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if things didn't happen in the background, I would have been quite happy stopping at Bradford. Like I said, it was a nice outfit, you know, a nice place to be. I know it's cold in winter, but it would change to summer then now, so it's a nice place. But yeah, it is. I could have been. I wish it would a bit longer.
When you first joined, was it still the walk up to the dressing rooms at the top, or had they made the new ones by then?
No, it wasn't new ones downstairs.
Yeah.
But I've walked up and down there a few times, you know, because on the training day we used to get changed at top, then walk down to the field and do his, you know, his stuff on the field, his training, and then walk back up.
One of the spectacular views that you always got at Odsall was of a visitor, and usually a forward, who had transgressed to the point where the referee said, I'm having no more of this, off you go. And the fans just loved it, and they gave him some abuse, didn't they, as he walked up those steps to the old dressing rooms.
I know, I mean, I wouldn't like to experience that. No way, you know what I mean? I took some abuse when I left Bradford, but I wouldn't like to walk up there.
You always do that, don't you, when you move on? The fans accuse you of being a traitor and what have you, but, you know, you're a professional, you've got a career to pursue.
That's right, and, I mean, I don't know if they realise that. But I know all they can see is the Bradford colours, and you know, if the player leaves and they give them abuse, they must have, deep down, they must not want that player to go, if you know what I'm trying to say, and they give it that much abuse, so they must have liked me, really.
So there you are, you're set to move again, and you're barely, what are you by this time, 21, 22?
Yeah, about...
very early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s, you're set to move to your third club. Who came in this time? Was it the usual suspects, or did Saints make it very obvious that they wanted you to be their man?
Well, Saints still have Gary Conley, so I think what they were doing, I could have gone to Wigan, but I think deep down Wigan wanted Gary.
Right.
And they had to wait until Saints got rid of Gary, let him go. So there was a bit of a triangle there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Wigan wanted Gary, really, instead of me. But it worked out all right. I mean, like I say, Gary went to Wigan and I went to St. Helens, so you know, the rest is...
It was fine for you.
It was, yeah.
Did you physically move over that way because you were a full-time player, or did you decide to travel?
No, I travelled. Like I say, 8 years I was on the M62, travelling up and down.
Must have been some traffic jam, that.
I tell you, it was. Sometimes I didn't make it because of the traffic, and the coaches understood, you know, and if they were fine by it, I mean, I was as well.
As a Saints fan, and indeed as an aficionado of the game, how did you feel when you knew Newlove was coming to Knowsley Road?
Oh, it was a really exciting time. You know, it was just such a big signing. A current international. He'd had a great World Cup in 1995, you know, scored the famous try against Australia, the interception try, which won us the game. And he was really the hottest property in the game. And finally, Saints had managed to spend a bit more money than Wigan, and, you know, we'd finally got our man after a few, like, you know, there was a saying at Saints, you know, there's players in the pipeline. Well, they were there a long time, but he was the first one to break out of it, so we got hold of him, and yeah, that's when things really did start to happen for the club, and yeah, it was a good time.
Was the general opinion around other fans that it was a good or a bad trade, though, with Connolly moving to the old Central Park and Paul moving into Saints?
I think the thing with Gary Connolly, with him being a local St. Helens lad,
Blackbrook lad, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I think that, you know, coloured people's opinions. I mean, all these years on, he still gets, you know, a hard time whenever he comes to St. Helens, but yeah, I mean, Gary and Paul have always been compared throughout their careers, you know, similar age. People tend to have said that Gary was perhaps better defensively and Paul was better going forward, but, you know, I don't think any Saints fan would swap Paul Newlove for anyone else, really.
Sounds like an ideal combination to have in the centres, though, that, doesn't it?
Well, definitely, I think for Great Britain, yeah. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better, really.
Who was the coach who signed you, Paul, at Knowsley Road?
Eric Hughes was there at the time, so I suppose Eric, you can say Eric, and a couple of board members, Eric Ashton, Malcolm Kay and Tommy Allard, they were the main guys who got me to St. Helens.
Yeah, a very unusual man, Eric Ashton. Not only did he captain Wigan 6 times in Challenge Cup finals, but he actually coached Leeds and Wigan as well, and that's not many people have done that.
No, he's...
Maurice Bamford has, by the way. Maurice will be listening, and so I haven't forgotten you, Maurice. But I know that, you know, Ashton did as well, and it's a great record.
It reminds me of Peter Fox's Ash. You know, he's like Peter Fox is the Yorkshire equivalent to you know, the Lancashire Eric Ash. He's another one. It tells it straight down the line, and it's funny to be around, and the stories he can tell you, I tell you what, he'll make you laugh.
Now, you'll have played in a few derby matches in your time, that's for sure. But could you truthfully appreciate how big Saints and Wigan was until you actually played in one?
No, it's like a Challenge Cup final. You know, you're playing against them, especially on Easter as well. You know, he kicked off at 1 o'clock, and it was just tremendous. A packed house, wherever it may be, Knowsley Road or Central Park, and it's just something else. You know, it's passionate.
Yeah.
The Saints, you've got to beat Wigan. They'll say to you, I don't care if we lose every other match, as long as we beat Wigan. You know, that kind of. But I'm sure they won't stand for that.
No, I'm sure they wouldn't either. Any particular memories of any particular derbies that were absolutely red hot? I'm sure they all were, but anyone stand out for you?
Yeah, Derek McVie when he got that interview, didn't he, on the sideline?
In the Cup,
and he swore, didn't he? He got
live on air,
live on air, and you know, and they had to cut him off pretty quickly because I think he were emotional as well. He's never experienced it,
right?
And I think he got carried away.
Just a little. Yeah. But was there when you moved over there as well to play? Was there a difference in the psyche, in the way I know they eat more pies than we do, but was there a difference in the psyche, or as a rugby league fan, whether he's turning out at Knowsley Road, Odsall, or Post Office Road?
What do you mean? Where I
fans,
come from?
I mean, are the fans all the same?
Yeah, they are. What, because I'm a Yorkshireman, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just wondered if they treat you differently.
No, I tell you what, it was great. The St. Helens supporters, they were brilliant, and it helped as well because Kevin Ward, he was a big Yorkshireman, and they loved Kevin up at Knowsley Road.
With every right to do so.
You know, and there were other Yorkshire players there as well. Anthony Sullivan, you know, he's old lad. I know he's made his home up in Saints now, or Warrington, wherever. And then Sonny Nicol, he came back as well, and he were already there before I came. So there were Yorkshire, few Yorkshire-based players there.
Well, just like all the English who live in Spain, it was an expat community.
That's right, and it helps, but I don't think that makes any difference where they come from. I mean, they come from Australia, and wherever they play, the fans love them, don't they?
But one thing for sure, the names that Paul's just mentioned. And if you're just joining us, by the way, we're talking to Paul Newlove. And we're talking to Andrew Quirke, and Andrew's here, of course, in capacity as author, because Newlove at the Centre of Rugby League is a brand new book. It certainly ought to be filling at least part of your stocking at Christmas. I'm going to give you the chance, by the way, to win one of these, absolutely free, in the next 20 minutes or so. And I'll give you the question. It'll be a telephone. First correct answer we shall take, and you will win yourself a signed copy of the book. I've forgotten what I was going to ask you now, Andrew. I was doing all right up to that as well.
That's right.
One thing for sure, the names that Paul had mentioned there, you, without a shadow of a doubt, took some of the best Yorkies over to Saints. Now, you talked about some overseas players coming over for a holiday. None of those Yorkshire lads were over there for a holiday, were they? You had some of the top men.
Fantastic. And Kevin Ward was basically, he achieved legendary status. I mean, when we signed him from Castleford, a lot of people thought he was at the back end of his career, but I think he forced his way back into the international game at that point. He was tremendous. Sonny Nicol, obviously, as Paul said, he's, diehard St. Helens man, and the supporters had great respect for all the Yorkshire players. Like Paul says, I think if people are doing the job and take pride in him wearing the shirt, then the supporters will always recognise that. Yeah,
they loved Waddy wherever he played. I mean, not only did they love him at Cass when he started in the second row and before moving up to the front row, they loved him at Manly as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was living there actually this time last year, and they were still talking about him, and they said, really nice fella, tremendous player, couldn't understand a word he said.
Fucking Stanley can't understand the word he says. And again, if you're listening, big fella, I'm only kidding. Paul Newlove's our special guest. We're talking about his life and times in the game of rugby league. Were you an instant hit at Knowsley Road, Paul, in your own mind and with everybody else as well?
Yeah, I think I was. I can remember scoring on my debut, in the centenary year. And, we used to play like 2 games a week, to fit it in because it was that short season.
That's right, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And we played Workington on my debut, and I was really nervous that day, and I made some good runs, and I slipped some good balls out to Sully, and then eventually I went over myself, and the cheer went up, and I thought, I'm glad I did that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good though, isn't it, when you've got, class and quality yourself, and you know that if your pace is in any way not quite enough and you haven't quite made the gap, you can always slip it to Sully and he'll do the rest.
That's right. If I can make the space for him, 9 times out of 10 he's going to finish it off. Honestly, he was brilliant, and he used to say, me and him together, it's the best they've ever seen down at Knowsley Road, and for people to say that, 2 Yorkshire lads, it was great.
Hunting in pairs is typical of many team sports where you pair 2 players and it just absolutely works. Did it work right from the off with you and Sully?
Yeah, I did, and you know what, we never trained like that. It just came, and only thing I used to say to him is for him just to stay out wide and just run the touchline. And if I did come across, then come back inside me, and that's all he did. He just stood out wide, and if I could just draw the centre and the wing together, and I can slip a ball out.
Didn't take you long to start winning honours there either, did it?
No, the first season as well. We won the double that year, and that was my first trophies ever. So I were made up, and you know, going around a lap of honour, especially in front of your own supporters, and champagne and everything going off, it was great.
And were you in? Remind me, in that final, were you in the traditional strip? Because I think there's something about tradition, you know, and to me, St. Helens says white jersey, red chevron. That's what it says.
Yeah, I know. That year, that centenary year, we were in the blue and
white, like vertical stripes.
Because you'd gone back to your original colours.
That's right.
That's right. That's why I asked you. I sort of had an inkling that might have been the case.
Yeah. So we were in that strip for the. It was still the Stones Bitter.
Centenary season, that one,
That's
and then
right.
Super League it changed, but it wasn't a traditional red V. That
No,
first
it
one.
wasn't.
They messed about with it a bit.
You don't mess about with colours.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at old black and white pictures, even in black and white, and pick out and say, oh, that's so-and-so playing so-and-so at such and such a ground, you know,
Yes.
and I think, you know, that sort of history, and I know that what's happening now will be history to the kids in 30 years' time, but I'm interested in what's history to me. Yeah. So, tell me what it's like to win the Challenge Cup, because I've spoken to people who've done it before, and everybody sort of has a different story about how it came about, but everyone tells a similar tale about the pride in the winning.
It is. I mean, from a youngster, you know, you see it on the TV as well, and especially with my dad playing, you know, being a captain as well, and he's gone up the steps and lifted the trophy, and you know, growing up, you just want to be in that player's shoes, and that's what I went to St. Helens for, to give myself a chance to do that. And anyway, we did, and we got to Wembley, and it was just unbelievable. You know, the noise, the crowd, especially at Wembley. You know, 70,000. You're walking up the tunnel, and you can see that Coca-Cola sign, and then it levels out, you know, onto the playing field.
Well, I don't know what sort of a day it was. You tell me, but I think I was there. But the sunlight, was it really bright in your eyes?
Yes, it's really, you know, it was a really warm day as well, and you come up the tunnel, like I said, and then you know, if you're home supporters at that end, it's great. And
but oddly enough, the ones at the other end see you first, don't they?
They do, But you know, then there's confetti, and there's fireworks going off, and then it's just unbelievable, and you're waiting for, you know, to shake the hands of whoever it may be. Yeah. And then
who was it on your day? Can you remember?
I cannot remember.
No, it doesn't matter. I just wondered.
I don't know.
And you'd remembered if it had been somebody like Princess Di, wouldn't you?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think it.
It's John Prescott, I think, wasn't it?
What, the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why I couldn't remember, maybe. So, but
Ponty lad, not remembering Deputy Leader at Labour Party. What's up with you?
So, to be there, just to be there, you know, was good enough, and then to win it and then walk up the steps, it was really brilliant.
Did it pass really quickly, the match?
It did, yeah. And I think, the first time I touched the ball, I passed the ball straight into the touch. You know, I miss Sully, and
that's a good start.
You know,
isn't it?
so you know, a bit nervous, but you know, you've got to get an early touch, and I settled down after that, and you know, it was really scary, and but we did it.
Were you happy with your game that day, with your own game?
I've never scored in a Challenge Cup. I know my dad hasn't, but I've never. I mean, I scored it for Great Britain at Wembley, but I've never scored in, you know, my Challenge Cup finals, and that's one disappointment.
You see others do it, and you think, oh, it looks easy, that.
Yeah, that's right. But I'll be happy. I mean, we won the game anyway. Yeah.
Were you there that day, Andrew?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that was the classic final people remember of Bobby Goulding's bombs.
Yes.
Where Saints were losing by 14 points, and somehow we snatched it, and it was a tremendous day, because that's the first major trophy Saints had won for 20 years.
Well, we had to come from well behind to do it.
From well behind to do it, so it's the first major trophy I had since Saints lifted in my lifetime, so it was a special day, that.
Broke a lot of Bradford hearts, didn't it?
Well, yeah, and it continued to happen. 5 finals, Saints v Bradford, and Bradford still couldn't get one over.
It's an incredible record, that, isn't it, when you think about it? Were you aware of tradition when you played, or did you just play for the match on the day?
He just played, you know, for the day. You know, and like you're saying, we played all his Challenge Cups against Bradford, and Robbie Paul scored 3 tries that game. I mean, you know, nobody's ever done that, and for him to score 3 tries and still on the losing side, that must have been heartbreaking.
How do you remember to keep hold of your medal after? Because there's so much going on. Everybody wants to grab you. There's a radio, there's a television, there's pictures to be posed for, there's the lap of honours, there's the cup itself. How do you remember to keep a clutch on that winning medal?
Well, you've got two places where you can put it. You can put it down your sock or down your jockstrap, and I don't think nobody will take it off you there.
Where did yours go?
Down my sock.
He's only saying that, yeah. What did it mean to St Helens? Because although we see them as a mighty rugby league club, it's actually quite a small community, isn't it, on Merseyside?
Very much so. I think the thing about St Helens is the only thing really, it's only focal point, and the only thing people know about St Helens around the world is its rugby league team.
That's right.
It's the heart and soul of the town. It's what people talk about. It's what people are interested in. And to win that Challenge Cup and finally get that success, I think the whole town was buzzing that day. And when you came back that night, and then the next day the homecoming. I mean, it was a really rainy day, the homecoming the next day, but Paul know better than me, but there was thousands of people around the town hall, and it was all going off. I think there was an hangover for about 2 weeks after that.
They both love it and deserve it, though, the fans, don't they? I can't speak too highly of people who pay the money to go and watch matches.
No, they were brilliant, and we arrived, like I say, at Town Hall at St Helens. It was raining. We had the suits on, and the open-top bus. I mean, all that is just an experience. I mean, can you imagine? Well, I mean, I have done it. Coming back without the trophy, and it's not the same. You know, I know the Speckies are still there. They still cheer you on when you come back when you're losing. But for them to see the trophy, that's what they want.
Absolutely brilliant, yeah. And Paul Newlove, by the way, is with me this afternoon on BBC Radio Leeds. We're talking about his book, Newlove, at the Centre of Rugby League. I will give you the chance to win a copy very shortly indeed. Let's talk about your time with Great Britain. You mentioned that 3 or 4 minutes as a sub against New Zealand at Old Trafford when, incidentally, you lost 24-16. And you actually also finished with a match against New Zealand 10 years later at Huddersfield, when again you lost, this time 22-16. I mean, I have to say, what sort of a bad luck symbol are you, Newlove?
Well, yeah, it's just one of them things, I think. But, I can remember that game as well. That was my last game at Huddersfield, and I pulled out the last 2 tests with a calf injury, I believe, and I never played again. I snapped my Achilles a couple of years later, and then, like I say, I never played international again.
You did, of course, play against the fabled Australians with mixed success, 2 wins and 4 defeats in half a dozen games against them, and there were actually a couple more as well which were lost, so but we'll gloss over those. How difficult are they to play against? Because they seem to me, I mean, I watched a lot of Wigan when they were top of the tree, and I thought they were such a good side when the other team had the ball, but when they got it, they were mustard. Is that how what's it like to play against the Aussies?
Yeah, I mean, they're always that step ahead of us,
They seem to be, don't they, at the moment?
They do. They were that much quicker and faster. But they keep saying that we're not far behind them now, but I don't know, I mean, what we did in the final as well, you've got to say, where are we?
No, it was unbelievable, that, wasn't it?
That's right. It was very disappointing. But but when I played against Australia, I think that's one of the best Australian sides they've ever had. I really do. With Mal Meninga, Ricky Stewart, people like that. They're all great players.
Bit useful. What sort of a tourist were you, Paul? Were you last to bed and last up on a morning, or when, you tell me?
I'm not the best tourist. It was a long time when I toured, but I'm glad I've done it. But it is very hard work touring. You're training 3 or 4 times a day, and you're playing, and you're travelling about, flying here and there and everywhere. It's a good experience, but I got homesick towards back end.
Yeah. Funny you should mention flying, though, because it doesn't suit you to a great degree, does it?
I wish I had £1 for everybody says that. I'll be a millionaire now. It doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
It's a story what I can't get rid of, so I just go along with it now.
Right. So it's not true?
No. I've been, like I said, I've been to Australia 3 or 4 times. I've gone my holidays wherever that may be. But when I was at Australia, at Featherstone, I was only 18, and Western Suburbs came in for me. And Peter says, do you want to go? And I said, no. And Western Suburbs put in a newspaper, we're meant to arrive this particular day in Australia, and when I turned around and told them I won't go in, they put in the paper, Paul Newlove's not coming because he's scared of flying.
Really?
And it was only a little snippet but it was big enough for people to read and latch on, and
That's
now
incredible.
I can't get rid of it. So I hope if everybody's listening, I am not scared of flying.
Let's dispel that rumour immediately. What was Papua New Guinea like? Because I've spoken to lads who've played there, like big hairy lads like David Hobbs, for example, who told me some lovely stories about equally big hairy lads being scared to death by the size of the spiders.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's a different world out there. We were there for 12 days. I mean, we were locked in his hotel, really. You couldn't go out anywhere unless you got this yacht club where we used to go. But the country itself, it was just unbelievable. You know, we got up there, brought to his hotel. It was just jungle. You know, you're thinking, where's the rugby fields here? And honestly, and when the groundsmen were cutting the field, they were cutting it with a knife. You know, it was bent over. It were women, actually. They were cutting fields with big choppers, you know, knives. Really? They didn't have lawnmowers, and
incredible.
It's a different world.
Yeah. Enjoyable though, because you've got to be able to be there and see it. I can't tell the tale because I've never been, but you can always tell it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they loved the rugby as well. You know, when we played at Ports Moresby, I was subbing that day, and I'm glad I was, because the heat as well, it was unbelievable. And I think I come on for the last 20 minutes, and 20 minutes it were enough for me. I don't know how the forwards did it, but you know, I suppose as backs were a bit pappy as the backs, but the forwards, they did the hard graft.
Seems funny. It's a right outpost, isn't it, of rugby league? Is it the Australian influence at PNG that does it, do you think, Andrew?
Definitely. They're absolutely crazy on the Australian rugby. I mean, actually in January this year, the World Sevens, the way the Papua New Guinea team were treated by the Australian crowd was really quite touching. There seems to be like some strong relationship there. And like Paul says, I mean, they've always been dedicated to the rugby league, and I think it'd be nice really for especially the likes of Australia who are over there and who've got the resources. I mean, their game's massive. You can't imagine how big rugby league is in Sydney until you've seen it yourself. If the Australians could help out the likes of Papua New Guinea a bit more and try and develop the international game and give a bit back.
Yeah, give a bit back, as you say. Shall we give the punters the chance here to win a copy of this book? And you will have it in time for Christmas, by the way, if you win. It's called Newlove at the Centre of Rugby League by Paul Newlove with Andrew Quirke. And we've already given you the answer, so all you've got to do is have a decent memory. How old was Paul when he made his Great Britain debut? How old was Paul Newlove when he made his Great Britain debut? The year was 1989. It was against New Zealand at Old Trafford when he came on as a sub. And the number to call is 0845 303 3333. And the first correct answer will win. And let's hope that Gareth, who's going to answer the phones, has got that correct answer, because at the moment there's only me got it in front of me. Lots of people are calling. We'll hear from someone very shortly. In the meantime, we'll be back with Paul Newlove and Andrew Quirke in just a mo. It is BBC Radio Leeds. Let's hear from Natalie Imbruglia, and the song is called Big Mistake. Imbruglia, it's BBC Radio Leeds. We're talking to Paul Newlove and the man who helped him put together his autobiography. He's called Andrew Quirke. And Ernest Jones from Ossett. Well done, Ernest, because we had loads and loads of calls there. And Ernest was quickest off the mark, first out of the blocks. How old was Paul Newlove when he made his Great Britain debut? Confirm it, Paul?
18 and 72 days.
And Ernest Jones knew that. He will be getting a signed copy of this book, and we'll have it to you in time for Christmas, Ernest. And I hope that it's a great read for you and that you thoroughly enjoy it. When it came time to leave Saints, I mean, you'd had an absolute catalogue of success there, hadn't you? You'd also had a few injuries. Is that, by necessity, what happens when you're a high-speed back? That, you know, you get a few pulls and knocks and...
Yeah, I suppose it is. And, you know, the grounds, now it's changed to summer rugby. The grounds are harder, and you know, I mean, now I was like 15.5 stone, and with all that weight and you know, your speed and you're pounding the ground, something had to give, and it was my Achilles what snapped.
Was that the end of the road, and did you know it was?
No, I mean, people were saying Nola's finished now, you know, but I came back and I had another 2 seasons at Saints after that.
Yeah.
And I came back and, you know, I proved people wrong. Even the directors at Saints were saying I'm all washed up and finished. Because I think if it would have been a few years earlier if I snapped it. You know, the technology wasn't as good as you know, today, and the surgeon who did the operation, it was unbelievable what he did, and he got me back playing. And the rehab, Claire, the physio at Saints, Claire was brilliant with me, and you know, I got back on the right track, and I got back playing.
How many coaches had you been through in this time? Eric Hughes was the first. How many more?
Yeah, there was Eric Hughes, Sean McRae, Ellery, and Ian Millward.
What was it Ellery like to play for? Because he'd been an imperious player himself, a brilliant player himself. Did he expect everybody else to be as good as him?
Ellery, he was really disciplined with Ellery, whatever he did, and he brought discipline to the club as well, because at the time we were just getting away from it as well, and he tightened it back up, did Ellery, and even in training, you know, if you had to get back to the line, you had to get back to the line. If he saw you cutting short, you do it all again, you know, and you'll be out there till he says so. Yeah. And you know, with that respect as well, the players respected him. Yeah. It was a pleasure to be under.
Some players actually respond to that, don't they? To that bit of extra discipline, and if they get a coach who's letting them get away with things, they'll take all that they can.
That's right. I mean, you won't get away with it on a match day. I mean, a referee, if you don't get back to the referee, what's he going to do? Penalise you, and then you're down the field in easy yards for the opposition. And our discipline that year was unbelievable, and we got to the grand final and we won it, and you know, I was so pleased for Ellery as well. Yeah. And the lads were over the moon.
So wonder you didn't need a removal van to bring all your medals home from Saints, because it was a great period both for you and the club, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, I didn't want to leave, obviously. I mean, I was doing, you know, an 8 year there. It's a shame I couldn't have spent another 2 years there and got a testimonial in and then retired, but it didn't work out that way.
It's ironic, though, isn't it, that the team you'd scored the most tries against, you then joined Castleford.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
you'd punished them over the years, and I bet they thought, we'd better have Newey down here instead of scoring against us.
Yeah, it was nice to go to Castleford. I mean, I started my rugby career at Featherstone, and I ended it at Castleford, and you know, that's only a few miles from our house as well, so you know, I'm a local lad from Pontefract, in middle between Fev and Cass, so it was good.
Did you manage to give them value for money, do you think?
Well, obviously...
I know it's disappointing for you as well, by the way, yeah.
Well, I mean, it didn't cost them anything. You know, I left Saints and then I went straight to Castleford. I mean, I could have sit it out for the rest of the season, but I didn't want to do that. You know, I mean, why should I collect my wages for one playing? And it was not fair for the supporters as well. Yeah. And I realised my foot wasn't up to standard, and I was really struggling. I mean, I couldn't train, I couldn't do nothing really. It just needed complete resting. And I felt, you know, I felt for supporters, and it wasn't fair for them.
It's a big blow, isn't it, though, when you reach the end of the road, because you know your foot's not up to scratch, and you know, and you're thinking, I'm going to have to make this announcement, I'm going to have to tell people that I'm not going to be playing anymore, and it must be a massive wrench.
Yeah, it is. You know, I mean, I was struggling with having needles in my foot before playing. You know, 2 or 3 needles just to numb it, so I couldn't feel it.
Yeah, it's no good.
And it's not good. It's not good for me. I mean, I won't be able to walk after I finish playing.
That's right.
And now I've rested it for what I hadn't run really for 6-7 months, and it feels like it's okay now, but I don't think it was up to Super League standard.
No, well, you've got to be honest about it, of course. At what point did you come in then, Andrew? Was it when Paul had announced his retirement, or was it before? Or?
It was just before, wasn't it, that we had our first meeting? Paul was still at Castleford. That we had the first meeting. We decided we were going to do the book, so it was at that point, and then obviously Paul announced his retirement, and it fit in. Well, it was just one of those things. It's coincidental that his retirement was announced, and a couple of months later his book came out.
When you decide to do this, do you get a publisher first, or do you write a synopsis? How does it work?
Basically, I've had the same publisher for all 3 of my books so far. They published my first book, and they've been interested in the next 2. But generally, it's the idea that comes first. And once you've become a published author, it does open doors for you, because you've done it before. Yeah. So other publishers then will hopefully, you know, give me a chance, like with future books. So you come up with the idea, you try and sell it to people, and if your sales are good and your reviews are good, then hopefully it all fits into place.
Have you done autobiographies before? Is this the first?
I did Doug Lawton's last year.
You did Dougie's, of course. Yeah, so Dougie came in with it, by the way, to see us.
Brilliant.
Yeah, good as gold. Yeah,
he's a gentleman.
Yeah, OK. Well, listen, it's been smashing to talk to the both of you today.
Cheers.
It's been good.
John.
Let me just run this past you, by the way, before we close, that Paul in his career scored 31 tries against Castleford. If you're a Leeds fan, he scored 28 against you. If you follow Halifax, you'll have seen him cross your line 22 times. Or if you're from just over the other side of the hill at Oldham, 21 times he scored against you. If you're a bit further west and you call yourself Wyre, then 19 times he was over your whitewash. 17 times he scored against Sheffield Eagles, 16 London, 15 Salford, 13 Bramley, 12 Hull, 11 Widnes, Whitehaven and Bradford, and I could go on. And the team he scored the least against, incidentally, probably because he didn't play much against them, was Featherstone Rovers. He only scored twice against them. I wish you success with the book. I'm very impressed with the quality of photography in there. It's absolutely smashing stuff. I know David Williams, the photographer. It's lovely stuff. I hope that it's a big success for you. Certainly Ernest Jones will be thrilled to bits because he'll be receiving an autographed copy. Thank you both very much for being with me this afternoon.
Cheers, John.
Cheers, thanks
Thank you.
very much.
BBC Radio Leeds talking to Paul Newlove and to Andrew Quirke. Coming up next, we're going to